I'm sitting here in this sanctuary, and you can see the saying or the statement or the verse, whatever you want to call it, that's kind of on the wall up behind me. Peace be with you, out of John. Thinking about this makes me start thinking about the idea of Sabbath. Now, Sabbath is important. It's one of the 10 commandments. Honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean to keep Sabbath? What does that word itself even mean? Well, I can't help but think that Sabbath means the idea of rest. It doesn't necessarily mean a commandment that we have to go to church or we have to spend an hour sitting in worship or that we have to spend time sitting there reading our Bible and a certain number of minutes in prayer with our eyes closed and our head bowed. I think Sabbath is built into the natural rhythm of life, and we see that in the original story of creation. If you think about the 7 days of creation that we find in Genesis 1, God makes things on the first 6 days, and then on the seventh day, God rested. And remember that we are made in the image of God, so that is built into our natural rhythm as well. Now, did God need to rest? No, I don't think so, but we do. Our lives are busy, our lives are crazy, our lives are going all the time. And how often do we take the time just to be? Whether that's intentional time spent with God or if it's just time being in our own skin without having things on the agenda to run off and do. A friend of mine wrote on this, fellow pastor, recently, and talked about her own tendency of busyness, even if that's busyness within her mind when she is attempting to take the time to rest physically. And the Sabbath for our minds, I think, is important as well. How's that work? Well, it's going to be different for everybody. For some, it's found in worship, or it's found in time spent together, or it's time spent reading or just sitting. For me, a lot of my Sabbath time is sitting with a cup of coffee, just kind of staring off into nowhere. I've heard it called the nothing box in our brains, where we're just not really thinking about anything. We're just kind of sitting. That's easier for some than others. For me, that works. For others, that doesn't work so well. But what works for you? Where do you find real rest and contentment in just the state of being? If you can find that and you know how to identify that, those things that give you peace, I think you're well on your way to establishing some Sabbath practices. Just a few thoughts.